A Muslim judge tramples the United States Constitution, putting the tenets of Sharia law above our nation's laws. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action. Joining me in studio is Deryl Edwards, President of Liberty Counsel Action. Deryl, this is shocking. You know, we have said multiple times here on Faith and Freedom that states like Oklahoma, who are working to pass bills that remind judges in that state that Sharia law is not the law of the land. It is counter-constitutional. We have said that these laws are necessary. We are, accused of being chicken littles. The sky is falling. Well, here we have a Muslim judge in Pennsylvania who scolded a local atheist. This is according to WorldNet Daily. A number of other news sites are picking it up. For offending Islam. He called him a doofus and accused him of, quote, using the First Amendment to madden Muslims. Listen to what he did here. He dismissed harassment charges against the Muslim defendant who purportedly choked this atheist during a Halloween parade because essentially he said that this individual, this Muslim, was justified in doing so because this atheist was dressed as Mohammed in this Halloween parade. Now, I don't usually come to the defense of atheists here, but I am coming to the defense of the First Amendment here. This idiot atheist had a right to do this. Muslims in the United States don't have a right not to be offended. We see what's happening over in the Middle East right now with killings and murders and for the inadvertent burnings of some Korans over there. But this is the United States of America. This judge should be removed from the bench for this, for essentially putting Sharia law over the laws of our land.
Yeah, the story goes on to say that there was also someone in the parade who was dressed as the Pope.
Yeah.
Now, if that person had been a Muslim dressed as the Pope and a Christian went out and choked him, I wonder if the judge would have let him off. And I think it's just he's taking his own personal viewpoint, ignoring the U.S. Constitution, and saying, "I'm a Muslim, and I'm going to bring in, as you said, the tenets of Sharia law. This is the way a Muslim country would have handled this, so that's the way I'm going to handle it in my Pennsylvania courtroom." Yeah,
well, District Judge Mark Martin did more than that. He brought a Koran to the court and told the victim, American Atheist Pennsylvania State Director Ernest Pierce, quote, "I think you misinterpreted a couple of things, so before you start mocking somebody else's religion, you might want to find out a little more about it. It kind of makes you look like a doofus." The judge added, quote, "I think our forefathers intended to use the First Amendment so we can speak with our mind, not to pee off other people and cultures, which is what you did." Well, no, Judge Martin, you have a gross misinterpretation of the Constitution. With that kind of attitude, I'm surprised that you passed constitutional law. This is clearly a violation of this atheist's rights, and the fact that he dismissed an assault charge and said essentially that this Muslim who assaulted him, who choked him, was justified in doing so. It really is mind-boggling. I'm wondering where all the atheist groups are, where all the
I'm wondering where Barry Lynn is.
Where Barry
for the
Lynn,
separation
yeah.
of church and state. Because obviously he brought in his Muslim religion to make a decision in an American courtroom.
Well, it's an interesting dichotomy. Progressives are strange bedfellows with radical Muslim activists. You will see the liberals rush to the defense of Muslims like this fella here.
Even against our own Constitution.
Even against the United States Constitution, even against their own liberal atheists. Yeah. It's really a strange thing. I've often said, you've heard the saying, a friend of my enemy is my friend, or rather, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think that's a little bit of what we're looking at here. We see the left embracing the Muslim faith, if you will, even though they would be liberals would be the first person that Muslims would slaughter if they had the opportunity. Yet you see them embracing these radical Islamists to such a degree. It really is mind-boggling. I think it has to do with the fact that both of these groups hate truth, the truth of God, the truth of Christ, And so ultimately you will see them partnering in almost a knee-jerk reaction. Political correctness demands that liberals rush to the defense of Muslims.
I wanted to point out a reaction here of a gentleman that's mentioned in this article, Gordon Klingenschmidt. He's a former Navy chaplain. Yeah. He was forced out of the service because he publicly prayed in Jesus' name out of the U.S. Armed Forces while in uniform. And he now runs the Pray in Jesus' Name project. Says the judge here is conveying the message that if you mock Muhammad, you deserve to get beaten, no matter what your religious rights and freedoms are under the U.S. Constitution. He said he freed the Muslim attacker and said basically it's okay to choke atheists if they insult Islam. So it's sort of a double standard. Yeah, we know we have the Constitution, but if I have my own religious feelings here, especially if it's a Muslim feeling and Muslim-dominated courtroom, he's letting that run his decisions and denying the U.S. Constitution.
Well, and there are multiple people, Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel included, who are saying that essentially this judge should be removed from the bench for this. I agree with that. This is it's just shocking. I'm surprised that some of the mainstream press hasn't picked it up. Not the liberal media. That's not surprising at all. It doesn't fit the narrative as the Muslims as the victims that the left pushes. But Matt Staver, in the same article you're mentioning on One News Now, says this particular judge actually had the audacity to rule in favor of the attacker, saying that the attacker was compelled to attack this individual because it was an insult to Islam and the Prophet Mohammed. Again, I mean, it's hard to even find words. These are strange times that we're living in, but we need this kind of thing needs to be nipped in the bud. This judge should be taken to task and disciplined for this, and from my perspective, because this will embolden other judges who may be Muslim, who may embrace Sharia law, to elevate Sharia law above the United States Constitution and the criminal laws that they are sworn to uphold, to interpret, and apply.
So the question here is for this judge, so if a rape victim comes before his courtroom, is this person going to have 4 witnesses that otherwise the rape victim themselves may be thrown in prison, because that's what happens in Muslim countries. The rape victim themselves who bring the charges are thrown in prison for false charges because they don't have 4 witnesses with them. That's out of the Quran. Is he going to bring that in next time?
Well, I've written about it before. There are organizations here in the United States that Muslim organizations that are advocating family tribunals. We've seen it happening, Sharia tribunals. We've seen it in Canada, in Europe, and elsewhere, where Sharia law will actually be applied. And there are those who advocate for that here in the United States. That's why we need to. There is a creeping encroachment here of Sharia law in the United States. And that's why it's not surprising that Oklahoma and I think 12 or 13 other states are attempting to put laws on the books. Again, judicial activists, liberal judges, and others are fighting against this. But it's pretty scary when you consider that I think 5 of our existing 9 United States Supreme Court justices have said that they will look to international law in interpreting the United States Constitution. You see this judge's actions, and it just reinforces the reality that we need to do something to put up a wall to protect us from Sharia law here in the United States.
Well, wasn't it Justice Ginsburg who recently sort of trashed the U.S. Constitution and said there are better constitutions in the world than ours? And I think she mentioned South Africa. Yeah.
Canada.
So they don't seem to have a lot of respect, some of these liberal judges. And so I can see easily how someone, if you're not having a lot of respect for the Constitution of the country in which you live, well, you can easily replace it with something else.
That's right. Well, folks, at Liberty Counsel, we are doing everything we can to protect the Constitution, the United States Constitution, to stand up against Muslim bullies like this judge who would impose Sharia law and would allow somebody who has choked an individual because he was offended to be let off on charges of assault. These are scary times we're living in. But it's people like you who enable Liberty Counsel, enable us to do what we do, to stand firm in defense of the United States Constitution against this encroaching Sharia law and other clear attempts to roll back our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. Become part of Liberty Counsel's team. Go to lc.org or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. Help us as we stand in the gap to protect the United States of America.